What if the next time someone cuts you off, or a coworker sends that passive-aggressive email, your reaction stopped before it ruined the rest of your day? What if anger could be contained, understood, and redirected so it no longer hijacks your relationships or your reputation? That's the promise behind this title. Never get angry again. Techniques to keep your cool around others. But let's be clear from the start. I'm not offering a magic pill. What I'll give you are research-informed tools and small daily practices that over time make calmness your default. The engine of this change is one simple idea. The intense surge that fuels anger is short. Learn to use that time and you change everything. Here's the core anchor, the 90-second rule. When something triggers us, an insult, a cutoff, a sarcastic remark, our body reacts. Chemicals spike, sensations show up, the alarm lights flash. That surge of feeling tends to resolve in roughly 90 seconds if we don't keep feeding it with replaying, rumination, or heated responses. In other words, the first 90 seconds are your opportunity. You can let the chemistry run its course, or you can fan it into a storm. This is not a promise that anger will vanish permanently, but it is a reliable lever. What you do in that short window largely determines whether anger explodes or dissolves. If you want to work through each technique with a checklist, hit like or save this video so you can return to it later. 1. The myth of buttons, ownership of emotion. Many of us speak as if other people have a remote control for our feelings. They pressed my button. That image makes anger feel like something that happens to us rather than something we can influence. The reality is different. Other people can trigger reminders, old hurts, fears, unmet needs, but the emotion that appears is ours to name and manage. Think of a trigger as a bell, not a switch. The bell rings because it touched a wound. The bell informs you. It does not own you. Example: your boss sends a curt message that feels humiliating. The immediate heat you feel often echoes previous moments, perhaps a childhood shame of not measuring up. Instead of saying, "He made me angry," ask, "What does this remind me of?" Micro-exercise. The next time you flare, stop and ask that question silently. Let one answer surface, script to use in the moment. What does this remind me of? That small inspection can shift you from autopilot to curiosity. 2. Secondary emotions. What anger is covering. Anger is often a protective coat. Beneath it sit more vulnerable feelings: hurt, fear, embarrassment, or shame. If we never name the softer feeling, we keep reacting from the hard shell. Naming the feeling dissolves some of its power. Example: a partner forgets an important date and snaps a defensive, angry reply. Beneath the anger might be hurt or rejection. Micro-exercise. Take 10 seconds and say to yourself, "Under this anger, I feel chao-kais." Allow one word, hurt, lonely, afraid, to surface. Practical phrase when you speak: "I'm not upset because of what you did. I'm hurt because I felt ignored." This shifts the conversation away from blame and toward repair. 3. The choice point, the space between stimulus and response. Viktor Frankl famously wrote about the human freedom to choose our response between what happens to us and our reaction. That space is where self-control lives. You already have it. You only need to practice using it. Ask yourself, what response will I be proud of tomorrow? That question pulls you out of short-term reactivity and toward long-term integrity. Example: a coworker takes credit for your idea in a meeting. The impulse is to fire back. Instead, use the mental space Frankl described. Breathe, name the feeling, and decide. Micro-exercise. Count to 4 on the inhale and 4 on the exhale. Then ask the reframing question. One-line script to rehearse. I want to respond in a way I'll respect later. 4. Self as observer. Notice without becoming. One of the most practical habits is learning to notice sensations instead of identifying with them. Thoughts and feelings appear and pass, like traffic on a road. Practice saying simple, factual cues. I notice my chest tightening, or My jaw is clenched. That observation reduces fusion with the emotion. It gives you room to act rather than react. Example. You receive a snide comment from a neighbor. Instead of, I am angry, practice, I notice my face warming and my thoughts rushing. Micro exercise. Voice one observation out loud or in your head. Script to memorize. I notice my chest tightening and thoughts racing. That short sentence slows the flood and primes you to choose. So what do you do with those 90 seconds? Here's the playbook for chapters 5.8. 5. Reframing difficult people as emotional trainers. People who trigger you repeatedly are not your enemies. They're practice tools. That's not a pleasant rebranding when the interactions hurt, but it transforms your stance. If someone consistently provokes you, they're showing you where you still have work to do. Reframing reduces personal outrage and opens a learning posture. Example. A sarcastic coworker always pushes your buttons. Instead of escalating, try, this is my emotional workout. Micro exercise. Mentally label the interaction as training before you engage. Script for your internal cue. This experience is teaching me what I still carry. When you respond out loud, aim for curiosity. Help me understand what you meant by that. 6. Boundaries blueprint. Gates, not walls. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're gates you open or close depending on safety and capacity. Clear, calm boundaries protect relationships and your nervous system. Keep your language short, specific, and non-accusatory. Example. A friend calls during your workday and unloads complaints in a way that drains you. Use a boundary script. I want to help, but I can't listen while you're shouting. Let's talk when we can both be calm. Micro exercise. Practice the line out loud once a day until it feels natural. Alternative script for work. I care about this, but I need us to discuss it when we can focus. 7. Break protocol. Strategic timeouts, not avoidance. Asking for a pause is not running away. It's a strategic reset. A short break gives the nervous system a chance to return to baseline. Have a clear, respectful way to request one. Example. A heated discussion with your partner moves toward yelling. Use the break protocol. This is important, but I need a short break to respond thoughtfully. Can we continue after dinner? Micro exercise. Rehearse that sentence in the mirror or in your head. If someone declines the break, consider safe distancing or scheduling a time to reconvene. Note. If triggers point to deep trauma, professional support can be crucial. This technique is practical but not a substitute for therapy when wounds run deep. Mini hook. Before we move to mapping triggers, remember, boundaries are gates, not walls. You can care and protect at the same time. 8. Trigger map. Spot the mines before you step on them. If we want to change patterns, we need data. For 7 days, keep a short trigger log. Note the event, your immediate feeling, where it landed in your body, and any memory it evoked. Patterns appear quickly. A tone of voice, a phrase, a time of day, a setting. Example of a logging line. Went to staff meeting. Boss interrupted. Felt hot in face. Thought about high school teacher. Reacted by snapping. Micro exercise. Commit to a one-line log every time you feel significantly triggered for 1 week. At the end of the week, circle common threads. Script for reflection. I notice this pattern. 9. Compassionate distance. Care without takeover. Compassion and absorption are different. You can hold concern for someone while protecting your energy. Think of compassionate distance as holding someone with one hand and your boundaries with the other. You refuse to become entangled in their drama while still offering support from a stable place. Example. A grieving friend cycles between anger and blame. You can say, I care about you and I can sit with you, but I can't take responsibility for the things you're angry about. Micro exercise. Practice the phrase that balances empathy and limit. I hear your pain, and I won't let it pull me under. Script. I'm here for you, and I need to protect my limits too. 10. Rewriting internal narratives, plus an incremental practice plan. Our habitual reactions live inside stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, and how other people treat us. Rewriting those narratives gives us new default responses. Pick one small story to edit. For instance, change. I always get disrespected too. Sometimes people disrespect me. I can stand for myself and move on. Example. When you catch yourself thinking, they always do this, interrupt, that's a story, not a fact. Micro exercise. Write one alternative sentence and repeat it twice a day for a week. Practice plan. Choose either to work through each technique across 10 weeks, one technique per week, or focus intensely on one technique for an entire week. For instance, using the self as observer cue every time you feel triggered. Small, consistent repetitions build automaticity. Expect gradual progress. Celebrate small wins. Climax. Imagine walking into a room where the usual provocations happen. Sarcastic remarks, subtle slights, the hurried microaggressions of daily life, and you remain steady. Not because you're suppressing, but because you notice, choose, and act with presence. People notice it in your face, your voice, your relationships. Your credibility rises, your stress drops, and the toxic feedback loops that once defined you begin to shrink. That's what "never get angry again" means here. You stop being habitually hijacked. You become the person who others find it hard to provoke. Practice roadmap for the next month. Week 1. The 90-second rule, plus self as observer. Each time you feel triggered, count the 90 seconds. Name one bodily sensation and say, I notice my chest tightening and thoughts racing. Week 2. Work on secondary emotions and naming. Beneath anger, what is the vulnerable feeling? Use the one-word naming exercise. Week 3. Choice point and reframing. Practice asking, what response will I be proud of tomorrow, before replying. Week 4. Boundaries and break protocol. Memorize the 2 boundary lines and use them when needed. Add trigger mapping. Log triggers daily. If this feels manageable, rotate through techniques in month 2 and begin mapping deeper patterns. Remember, for deep or traumatic wounds, consider seeking professional support. These tools support everyday regulation, not intensive trauma work. Before I close, a few quick scripts you can memorize now. Self-observer cue. I notice my chest tightening and thoughts racing. Reframing question. What response will I be proud of tomorrow? Boundary line. I want to help, but I can't do that when you're shouting. Let's talk, when we can both be calm. Break protocol. This is important, but I need a short break to respond thoughtfully. Can we continue after dinner? Keep those 4 lines handy. Say them aloud, rehearse them, make them part of your muscle memory. Change is gradual. You will have days you blow it. That's human. The point is not perfection, it's directionality. Small, consistent practices stack into a new automaticity. Over weeks and months, the 90-second window stops being a crisis and starts being your superpower. Tell me one trigger you're mapping this week in the comments below, and one technique you'll try first. Share this with someone who needs it, and if you want the 1-page practice plan I mentioned, download it from the link in the description. Keep practicing. Calm becomes a habit when you choose it again and again.